Okay guys, Quantum here, back again with a Dark Souls 3 video. This time we're going to be looking at one of the weapons that I uploaded a PvP kind of montage for. It was the Uchigatana, where I kind of related the origins of the weapon art being related to this anime called Kenshin, which in my opinion is one of the best animes, or not even the best anime, it's just one of the best shows ever. It's really awesome, so check it out if you haven't. Anyways, I haven't really talked about this weapon, and there's a reason I uploaded that montage. Is because I actually think that this katana is one of the better weapons in the game. It actually almost made it into my top 5 weapons for PvP. It just narrowly missed out to the Faron Greatsword. And I know a lot of people are going to hate on me for it, but you know what? If you can't deal with the Faron Greatsword, it's not too hard to space out. You know, you kind of deserve to lose to it. Anyways, that's beside the point. Let's get on with the actual video. Now, before I do that though, I will link in the information button up in the top right corner and in the description and in the annotation that just popped up on the screen a link to the actual PvP video where I showcase using the katana in action. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't, or watch this video first then go check out that montage. You're going to actually see a lot of the things I talk about in this video as to why I think this weapon is a top weapon and why it's so good. So let's get started with the actual weapon itself. Now, the Uchigatana is kind of the baseline or the base model katana in the game, in which all other katanas are kind of related to or measured up to. So for example, you have the washing pole. It's kind of like the Uchigatana. You know, it has the same kind of moveset, same weapon arts, but it's a little bit longer. It's a little bit slower as a result. It deals a little bit more damage, but it has its drawbacks, right? The black blade, kind of like the Berserker blade from Dark Souls 2. Again, just a shorter version of the Uchigatana, has a unique moveset. I don't even remember if the weapon art is the same. Is it? Yeah, it's the hold skill. So same weapon art. The Bloodlust kind of has a unique skill to it. The Chaos Blade is like the Chaos Blade from Dark Souls 2. Deals damage to you as you use it against opponents for a little bit of extra damage and a little bit of extra length. And then there's the unique dual wield katanas as well in this game. Now, out of all these katanas, you know, each one has their unique properties. I personally think, and I know I'm going to take a lot of flack for this, or people are going to call me a scrub, but anyways, I don't care because, again, I go off results. I think that the Uchigatana is actually the best katana in the game, or the best iteration of the katana. It was also one of the top weapons in Dark Souls 2, easily one of the top 5 weapons in Dark Souls 2. The ability to incorporate this katana into any kind of build you're using makes it also very versatile for no matter what kind of build you make, whether it be magic, faith, dexterity, even strength, you know, anything. This katana is a really good asset to any build. It's lightweight relatively at only 5.5. It has decent range, it has decent damage, it's very fast, and overall I don't really think it has that many drawbacks aside from being able to parry, and aside from, you know, while it does deal decent damage, it doesn't deal a hefty amount of damage, which means you do have to do an extra amount of hits to opponents. And I would actually, I mean, I know I didn't include it in my top 5 weapons, but I would actually prefer this to an S-Stock. And I know that's kind of weird because I said the S-Stock was kind of one of the top 5 weapons in the game, but, you know, overall, I actually think the katana might edge it out, or maybe the S-Stock isn't as good as I originally thought. I mean, don't get me wrong, the S-Stock is still a really good weapon, but I really like this katana. But enough of me talking. Let me explain why it is. So just to start off, the two-handed moveset, the R1 can combo into each other. Unlike the washing pole where you can't combo the R1, with this katana you can follow up with a second R1. It is extremely fast and you can kind of manipulate space around you. It doesn't take up that much stamina and you can kind of just keep whipping it out. It is pretty fast. Now the initial startup of the first swing obviously is a little delayed, but the downward slash comes out extremely quick. So if you can kind of see an enemy rolling back, you can kind of initiate this swing and usually catch them on the rollback. This was really broken in Dark Souls 2. It's still kind of around in Dark Souls 3. It's more apparent on the straight sword with the R1 spam when one-handing, but it's still available in Dark Souls 3 to some degree, depending on when you attack and when the enemy rolls. Now, I know that a big theme of mine when I do these weapon reviews is looking for trades, right? When you go in for an attack, you know, you want to deal more damage, you want to have hyper armor, you want to be able to attack through an enemy's attack, stagger them, and combo them for some big damage, right? if you go in with that mentality, you'll always come out on top on trades. Now, the Katana is very unique because of its running R1. And I know the washing pole also has a running R1. It's actually not as fast, but it makes up for that because it has more range. However, I personally like the Uchigatana's running R1 over the washing pole personally. The range isn't a big deal for me. I'm usually okay with spacing. I usually keep myself safe. And if you're good at spacing in PvP, and I'll probably do a video on that a little later because it is one of the most important mechanics in the game, if you're good at spacing, you can run in for pokes because of how fast this running attack is and roll away from enemy attacks before their attacks even come out. And if you've watched my PvP video that I uploaded using the Katana, you'll see that I do that multiple times. I'm able to run in before an enemy's attack is able to come out, even if they have hyper armor, and poke them for a quick hit and then roll away or roll through them. You know, run in, can't even do it right now, run in with an R1 and then just hit circle to roll out of the way. This makes the Katana actually quite a decent counter to people who, like me, who play anticipating getting the trade, right? If you're good at spacing, and you've seen this if you watch that PvP video, you notice that I'll run around in place, you know, kind of just away from my opponent, not really running towards them, just run around in place. And most Katana users, if you're experienced with a Katana, will do this, kind of just run in place, even if my enemy is kind of far away, and try to bait out their attack or see what they're going to do, and then quickly just run in for a poke and roll away. This is one of the most utilized tactics with the Katana, and it's something that if you can master, can really help chip away and whittle down opponents. Now, it is a little cheap and unfair, yes, because you're spamming the running R1, but again, it's one of the better moves in the game overall. Not just better moves for the Katana, just better moves in general in the overall game. It's probably one of the most overpowered moves that you can use out of any weapon category, just because of the range, the speed, the recovery time, and it actually does some decent damage. You can definitely whittle down opponents with just this running attack until they're dead, essentially. So just from that, it is really, really good. Not to mention, like I said, it's really fast, so it can be kind of hard to parry. But again, if you're going up against an experienced person, they're going to probably be able to parry you. But again, you can mix it up. You don't have to run at them and do an R1. You can run at them and just roll away, bait out a parry, run at them and just run straight past them if you think they're going to parry, right? Of course, if you just don't do anything and you just run at them, they could also throw out a weapon attack and hit you. So it is a little bit of that mind game. It is a little bit of that kind of playing your options, conditioning your opponent. There's a lot of times where I'll run in and do these running attacks, and the enemy kind of thinks that I'm just spamming them out, and as a result, you know, the next, after, like maybe I do 2 of these running attacks, and the third one I'll just end up rolling past him or something like that, baiting out his attack and then punishing him with 2 R2s. And again, if you've watched that PvP video I linked in the beginning, you will see that, and you'll see that the conditioning of opponents is a big role in PvP. So with that said, the other moves with the Katana, you know, the overhead R2 isn't the best. It's again just one of those attacks that you can delay and kind of scare opponents away if you think you're getting rushed down a little too much. If you see them approaching you, you can let go of the R2 and whip it out. Don't really use the one-handed attack moveset all that much. It still has the really good running thrust. In my opinion, it doesn't look as fast, but you know, it probably is. I think that the two-handed version for some reason is faster. Also, the one-handed slash, I don't know why, I just never use it. I always two-hand my katanas. It's been a habit since Dark Souls 2. And I think it is actually faster for the downward slash versus the one-handed R1. I don't know. It's just what it feels like to me. But again, it's just personal preference. Now, with that said, I do think that this katana, like I mentioned earlier, is the best katana. Now, the washing pole is a lot slower with its attacks. As a result, it's not as good, even though it has that more range. You're not going to be able to combo opponents, so you actually end up doing less damage overall despite the range. The washing pole is definitely a good weapon to utilize the weapon art, the R1 slash, which again seemingly comes out a little bit slower, and the running R1, which again seemingly comes out a little bit slower. However, the additional range on the washing pole kind of makes up for that. Nonetheless, the washing pole isn't a weapon that you want to use for a full PvP match, right? You don't really see people using this in entire matches anymore. They usually switch out to this when they're trying to finish you off with the running R1 attack. The katana though, just because of its speed, the recovery frames on it seem to be a little bit better. You can combo with it, the moves come out faster. It's a weapon you can be a lot more agile with, therefore it's a little bit more of a skill-based weapon. But you can definitely use this weapon to avoid getting trades and just poking away at your opponent. Again, like I said, whittling them down without getting hit and kind of just moving in and out of areas, just dealing chip damage over and over and over again to opponents. Again, one of the drawbacks is because you have to hit them multiple times, you are susceptible to parries. But again, mixing up the attacks, you can kind of avoid that. And I do that a lot if you watch the PvP montage that I uploaded earlier. Now, the last thing I want to cover with the katana is the weapon art. And this is the whole point of me uploading the previous montage that I did, relating it to the Kenshin Hiten Mitsurugi style. The attack, the R1, kind of is a little bit resemblant of the Amakaka Ryu no Hiromeki that Kenshin uses. And it is kind of cool. I like that From Software included it. When I saw this day one, I actually thought that this was actually like the best weapon art in the game. And it is actually still one of the best, in my opinion. There's a few other ones that are really good. But this katana, again, one of the better weapons in the game, almost made it into my top 5 weapons. And one of the reasons is because of this weapon art. It is extremely powerful to use this tool to catch people rolling away. Chasing them down, and then going into the whole stance can kind of scare opponents because they don't know if you're going to whip out the parry if they try to attack you, or if they should roll away and you're going to chase them down with the R1 attack. In the neutral game, where you and your opponent are just spacing and feeling each other out, going into the stance kind of just makes them think like, okay, am I going to approach this enemy? What am I going to do? They likely won't. They likely will just run around, or maybe try to throw an attack out at range, in which case you can likely follow up, and with the decent amount of coverage with the forward step on the R1, you can sometimes catch enemies, if they miss their attack. It is a very, very powerful weapon art. Not to mention, one of the best things about it is after you run in for a poke, or even if you do a standard just 2-hit R1 combo, enemies usually have a tendency to kind of roll away. So what you can actually do, again, it's going to depend on the kind of opponent you're playing and how well your conditioning is. After you do this attack, you can easily follow up with an R1 and catch an enemy roll, and essentially do a 3-hit combo that's going to deal a hefty amount of damage, usually like 500 to 650 damage, just from 2 R1s and the follow-up slash with the weapon art. So it is something that is extremely powerful. Not to mention it's very fast, and it recovers quite easily, and you can roll away or even just start attacking straight from it. This is what makes this katana, in my opinion, one of the best katanas in the game. It has decent range, right? It's not short like the Berserker Blade. It's a little shorter than the Chaos Blade, but it doesn't have the drawback of taking 50 points of damage or however long it is whenever you attack. Plus, you can't buff the Chaos Blade. You can actually buff the Uchigatana. And the dual-wielding katanas are obviously a little bit slower with the two-handed moveset. So this is why I personally think that the Uchigatana, just the baseline katana, is actually the best katana in the game. And if you haven't tried it yet, please use it in PvP. You would be surprised at some of the results you'll get by just playing agile, and it really will help you develop your skills in PvP, learning spacing, learning how to avoid enemy attacks, going in for quick pokes, learn the dodging game, learn what it means to be agile, etc. So use this weapon if you haven't, guys. There's a reason why I uploaded a montage with it. It's because I do personally think it is one of the better weapons in the game. But that is my kind of basic analysis of the weapon. You do need to learn a lot of spacing to use this weapon effectively. But like I said, it's one of the few weapons in the game, I think, that can really help counter ultra great swords and other heavy weapons, or the kind of playstyle that I like to utilize where you can fish out trades and deal heavy amounts of damage. So definitely check out the PvP montage. I'll link it again in the end of the video here. But let me know what you guys think of the katana. Let me know if you've used it. Let me know what you think in terms of this katana versus others. Thank you for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more Dark Souls content. Quantum is out.